You were a outstanding guy on the defensive side of the ball at Penn State, a linebacker, great linebacker. I watched probably every single one of your games. And then now with the Detroit Lions, you're playing a lot of different roles. You're playing fullback, you're doing some special teams, playing a little tight end. Talk to me about that transition. What drove that transition, and how challenging was it for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's been my career has been somewhat of a roller coaster, kind of odd. Some people might say, but my first 2 years I played defense. I was playing defense when I first got here to Detroit. And last year, middle of training camp, kind of a couple weeks into camp, our fullback wasn't, really healthy, and there was a need there, and they had asked me like, hey, like, would you want to, can you come help us out over here? And I was like, you know what, I'm up for whatever, whatever help the team, kind of attitude, and ended up doing well. That first year, ended up starting all 16 games at fullback, and then kind of having a whole off season of training on offense, kind of knowing that I was going to be playing offense, going into the next year. I think really has helped my movements and stuff this year. I feel a lot smoother, a lot more confident. And I'm really playing a lot of stuff. I'm lining up at fullback. I'm lined out at receiver. I'm playing tight end. So just doing a lot of stuff in the run game and the pass game just to help us win.
So what did you do, Jason, when you initially make that decision that you're going to give it a go at a position like fullback that presumably you hadn't played before? What's your first step? How do you begin that transition?
Well, I think for me, knowing that, in high school, I for the most part really just played offense. I played H, and I was a halfback. So, fullback isn't crazy far from halfback, just that you're primarily doing the blocking. So I think for me, I've always been a physical player, so that wasn't, crazy. I think it was more for me, like, don't think so much. I'm coming from the defensive side, so I kind of know what they're in. When I look at the defense, I know what they're in and what they're doing because I have that feel just from playing defense from so many years. But it's been more of a confidence thing more than anything. And I think this past offseason has helped me a lot to gain that confidence. I feel like I need to play at the level I'm capable of playing at. So,
was there a moment over the offseason when you felt like that confidence was starting to build? Could you feel it at a certain point?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I could tell even when I watch film from last year's games to this year, I feel like I look kind of night and day playing a position. You could tell it's real foreign to me, but kind of in this offseason, just in my route running, and footwork and stuff, when I started to get those things down, I could feel kind of that halfback part of me come back from high school. Like once that high school confidence started to come back, then I was starting to feel well in that sense. But it took a minute. It was just foreign. I hadn't done it in so long.
Were there people that you reached out to for advice, perspective, input?
Oh yeah, Keith Smith is like one of the first guys I texted because I used to be out in Oakland, and he was our fullback there for a little bit, and I was just texting him because he was a linebacker too, and he moved to fullback, so he's made that exact transition. I don't think he made it until like 3-4 years into the league of playing linebacker. So he was in deep before he made the switch, and he gave me a lot of good advice, and talking to him made me feel a lot better about it. And he was like, nah, you got this. Like, trust me, you're built for it. Like, you a dog. Like, you ain't going to have no issues. Just, like, hit me, and that helped a lot. So, and then I was also watching a lot of film on him. I was watching film on Kyle Juszczyk from, 49ers. I'd ask for his film too. So, I was just studying and doing those kinds of things.
How do you, like, wrap your mind around, like, all the different roles that you might play over the course of a game? Like when you think about the preparation, when you're focused on one thing, maybe you can zero in on that. How do you kind of manage and kind of deal with all those different things you've got to consider heading into a game now?
Yeah, when I first moved into the tight end room, I really didn't realize how much you got to know, as a tight end. You're involved in all the pass concepts. You're involved in the run concepts, play action. You really got to know everything. And that's helped me. It was tough at first, but it's helped me, in the long run, because now, like, I can be put anywhere. I know where I'm supposed to be, whether I'm at this part of the concept or this part of the concept, so things like that have actually helped me a lot. And when you're able to do that, it helps you play faster. When you can play faster, you play better. So
I bet those guys on offense love having an experienced hand on defense in the room studying film. I mean, you could probably point out some things that maybe the offensive guys don't necessarily see.
Oh yeah, no doubt about it. And I know those guys, appreciate that, and it helps me honestly. So
Jason, you're I mean, obviously a tremendous leader at Penn State. Now your coaches say that you lead by example on and off the field. Has being a leader always been something that's kind of part of your blood and DNA?
I guess you could say so. I mean, everywhere I've been, I've been a captain or kind of in that leadership role. I wouldn't necessarily say that I seek it. Like you said, I try to just lead by example. I've always been, especially when I was younger, I was always that kind of guy who, like, when I walked into a room or into a new team or something like that, or I was in some type of new transition, new school, I'd always look and see, like, who's the hardest working guy, and let me try to outwork him. And that's kind of how I've always been the type of dude to kind of measure up my work ethics with other guys. And that's how I try to stay ahead, because that's how I've always been. That's where I've gotten everywhere I've gotten to. It's kind of all I know. So from that aspect, I think this is a guy seeing how serious I take it. And I really try to be a pro about the way I do things, from taking care of my body to the way I work out to the way I show up and practice every day. And, I'm mentally locked in all the time. That's just who I am.
So, like, for example, I want to dig into that a little bit. So when you arrived at Penn State, you're looking around the locker room saying to yourself, who's the hardest worker here?
Mike Hull.
And that guy I'm going to outwork. So you're going to outwork Mike Hull.
Yeah, it was Mike Hull. I found that out very early. And I just tried to mimic everything Mike Hull did. If he's staying out there doing this, I'm going to stay out there and do this. If he's inside, you know what I mean? It's just like, that's the starter. That's the guy. He's the guy for a reason. And I think a lot of people miss those things. And even the things that he would work on, he didn't necessarily work on them because he wasn't good at them. Those are things I saw him do in games all the time, but it's just reps and reps and reps and kind of the mastery of things. I remember, because my freshman year, I didn't play the first maybe 4 games. I didn't play the first 3-4 games. And I used to stand behind the ones while we would go through their walkthroughs. So, like, I'd be right behind Mike Hull in my stance, like in the back with the other guys, and I'll just be going through every step he would take and seeing what he's seeing and, like, acting like I'm there in the play, because that's how I prepare. And I was preparing like I was the starter. And what's crazy is one of my teammates ended up getting hurt. I ended up starting my first game of college that I played in. I ended up starting because our linebacker went down. But I was ready for the moment. So.
Has that always been something, like, the way you've thought about preparation? Like, if you stay ready, you're always ready. I mean, is that?
Yeah, 100%. And I've really realized that since getting into the league. I mean, you see guys bounce from this team to this team and all of a sudden just go crazy. You know what I mean? It's just like, not every situation is going to be perfect. Not every situation is going to line up with exactly what you want it to be and in your favor or whatever the case may be. But whatever opportunities present themselves, like, you need to take advantage of them. And that's how you're going to, that's how you're going to make more opportunities. But, some of it is luck. But I'm also a believer that guys who work harder, or when you work harder, luck tends to go in your favor more. I do believe that, but.
There's a great quote. I think it's legendary golfer Gary Player, who says, the harder I practice, the luckier I seem to get.
Yeah, I mean, it's real. It's real that the practice makes perfect. Like, that stuff is real. You see things that you do post practice and stuff come alive in the games, and it's like, for me, practice and preparation, like, that should be your number one confidence builder. For me, it's lining up across a guy and knowing, like, I know you didn't work as hard as I did for this, so there's no reason why I shouldn't win this rep, and that's how I look at it. And that's where my confidence comes from, because without that, I have nothing to lean back on. They say in situations where you're dead tired and all that, you just lean back on your training, on your level of training.
So when you're lining up, you're looking across saying, there is no way that guy over there prepared harder than I did.
No.
And then that creates, like, a level of confidence and a way for you to execute.
Yeah,
almost an automatic fashion.
And it's not all confidence. It's also, like, more like dog. You know what I mean? Like, because there are situations in games where, like, it's not all about how well you're doing something, it's how you did it and the intentions that you came in doing them. That, your technique can be a little off, but because you brought this level of aggression or this, you know what I mean? Level of precision where it just worked out still, you know what I mean? So it's also that too. And I mean, it's football, bro. Like, you need that dog mentality out there. You just do. It's really doggy dog out there.
Well, one of the things that I consistently hear from top performers in anything is that at the end of the day, they're consistent. They do the same, they do a lot of the same things over and over again, some of which is very monotonous. And then they do the little things really well. What are some of the little things that you're looking for in your game when you're studying film, or that you're doing as part of your routine that you think make a big difference in your success, Jason?
Like, for example, I think one of the first things I knew I needed to work on after my first year was like just overall pad level. And it always started with my footwork, whether it's taking this short of a step or this long of a step, or I'm, what I mean? Or I'm not coming out of my stance the right way. So like, sometimes it's the start of the snap that'll lead to other things. So like, you'll see, okay, because my step was too wide, my angle ended up being over here, which ended up being the reason why I overreached, or what, you know what I mean? So like, those little things really do add up. They seem so monotonous and they seem so small, but they're so important, because the more you lean and stick to your fundamentals, I think it increases the margin of error that you have. So like, sometimes you see guys who are super athletic and are freaks, and they'll have a bigger margin of error just off the strength of their athleticism, if that makes sense. You know what I mean?
Because that angle is wider, or that
for not having the fundamentals and technique and all that kind of stuff. But a guy who isn't as athletic, now he doesn't have a lot of margin of error, because if he doesn't stick to his technique, his fundamentals from an athletic standpoint, he'll get beat. So
it's so interesting, Jason,
being able to widen your margin of error by doing every little thing right that you possibly can, because not everything's going to be in your control.
It's so interesting to me, right? Because somebody like me who just sits and watches, watched you in college and now watches you on Sundays, right? You're like, okay, like he's doing this, he's doing that, he's doing this. You're thinking about angles, to like a 2-3 degree angle, and that could be the difference between what you need to do and what you don't need to do.
Yeah, or not being able to move a guy off his spot, or absolutely.
And are coaches bringing these things to you like in the game, or these little things that get addressed?
Yeah, I mean, in the film room, we talk about it as we watch film. We're going over and correcting film, and let's say you put a bad rep on film, and you're sitting there like, okay, what could we have done better? Like, and a lot of sometimes the coach will just ask you, like, you coach yourself, let me hear what you have to say, and then he'll add on to it, or whatever the case may be. But yeah.
What has been the biggest surprise for you in terms of the transition from college at a very high level to the NFL?
Ooh. The biggest surprise, I would probably say just how cutthroat it is. I think it's a pretty big transition in that standpoint from college to NFL, where like, if you get here and you're not a man yet, and you don't like really understand, like, we come from having scholarships, you're on the team, like blase, to like in the NFL, if you're not doing anything for the team, or you have no type of role, or you're really not contributing, you won't be there. Like, you won't. And I've seen guys be in and out of the building. I've seen guys be here this week and gone for 6 weeks and then come back. And during those 6 weeks, they were over in Arizona. And I mean, it's nuts. So I think it's just like the level of transitioning that happens to some guys' careers are pretty crazy.
Does that give you like a different level of perspective or appreciation? How does that ultimately like make you feel?
1,000%. An ultimate level of gratitude, an ultimate level of being able to wake up every day, go into the building, and be able to attack the day, because I know like tomorrow isn't promised, like truly, and I see it all the time. So it's just worrying about and knowing what I have to do, being at my best, at all times, regardless of the circumstance, regardless of how many wins we have or what things look like, on the outside. I think that's really the what you got to do, like being able to ride the ebb and flow. I remember I had a coach who used to say that, being able to ride the ebb and flow and being able to stay in the middle, because light's going to go up here, light's going to dip down here, and emotionally, physically, everything you have to do, you have to fight your best to stay right here, no matter what everything else looks like.
Is there something that you do to try and maintain that even keel?
Yeah. I mean, that's what God is for me. I think you just need to stay grounded. I think that's the biggest thing. So my faith is very important to me in that sense.
And I always say to people, it's like for me personally, right? Like, you're never as great as you are on your best day, and you're never as bad as you are on your worst day. You're you've got to keep that perspective that you're somewhere in between, because things can go well for you and you could lose that humble nature pretty quickly if you're not careful, and then the bottom could fall out and you could be pretty frustrated. I'd imagine that having that faith and focusing on staying level has served you very, very well.
Oh yeah, no doubt about it. And kind of like what you said, we say that about plays that you make on the field. Like, it's never as, like, when you watch it on film after, like, it's never as good as you thought it was, and it's never as bad as you thought it was too. You know, like, even plays that you thought were really bad and you're like beating yourself up for, like, when you watch it on tape, it'd be like, damn, I just took this one wrong step. And if I just, you know what I mean? You try to eliminate those phrases out of your game. Like, man, if I just did this, or if I just practice this one thing one more time, you know what I mean? So yeah.
What happens if you say that, like, if I just too much? Like, what happens?
To me, if you find yourself saying that, I feel like you're not working on it. I feel like you're just making the same mistake and you're not learning from it. That's probably what I would say, because I feel like if I found myself after a game because I couldn't, I wasn't making my catches or something like that, and I'm not on the jugs after every practice catching 100 balls, it's like, do you want that to change? Do you want to stop saying that to yourself or not? And that's a personal question for all of us in all different phases of life.
That's so interesting, Jason. I mean, if you lean on this, if I just did this, if that just fell for me this way, or if the ball was just an inch closer to the numbers, I mean, you could really kind of talk yourself into some complacency.
Yes, it's like that self-pity type of attitude, like, nah, like, whatever cards you're dealt, like, make it shake, like, try to make it so that you can at the end of the day say there's absolutely nothing I could have done differently. And that's kind of how I try to live, is just to make sure I don't have any regrets, because I know the pain of knowing, damn, if I had just worked in the weight room this much longer each day, or if I just stayed outside and like, I know that will kill me way more than the discipline of when I'm tired as shit and I don't want to do anything, or I'd rather just go inside and be like, nah, like, I'm gonna stay these extra 30 minutes and do this, or work on my body, or whatever the case.
Do you have a point where you say, I am prepared enough and I need to, let it all marinate for a period of time? Like, is there a point in the week when you say, hey, I'm going to cut off the film study, I'm going to just focus on it? Like, how does that work?
I mean, yeah, I think you definitely have to balance things without a doubt. But in terms of having a level of complacency of, I got this, nah. I truly believe once you start to have that attitude, that's the beginning of your decline. Just as, like, if I want to stay as good as I am, I have to continue to be as good as I am and do it. You know what I mean? I can't just be like, okay, I reached this point, like, I'm good, and kind of hit the autopilot, because when you do that, like, you don't keep it. It doesn't work that way. You have to keep working to even have it, let alone to increase what you have.
Jason, as good as you are on the field, you're as good off the field. You are the Lions nominee for the Walter Payton NFL Man of the Year award this year. You have done some outstanding work. We can't even list it. There's so much work that you've done in the community. I want to talk about the book drive, the work you've done with Surfside, some of the Jason Cabinda Attendance Award. There is so much to get into. But where I want to begin, I mean, this Walter Payton Man of the Year honor, to even be nominated, is such a tribute to the work that you do on and off the field. What does it mean to you?
It's huge to me. I mean, I'm incredibly honored, incredibly humbled to even be named as a nominee, for a award like this. They say the Walter Payton Award Man of the Year award is like the most prestigious honor you can get in the NFL, to be able to be recognized in that standpoint, in his light. So it's huge to me. I know it means a lot to my family, especially my mom. That's how she raised me. So I really give that credit to her, honestly. But I just hope I can continue to do these kinds of things, and it's awesome to be recognized in this way, and to see that there's people who are being impacted, positively by my actions, kind of off the field too. So it's a great thing.
You mentioned your mom there. I recall a story where you mentioned that when you were younger, your mom was working 2 jobs, but she never missed one of your sporting events, or rarely missed one of your sporting events. Talk about, like, kind of what that meant to you.
Yeah, man. My mom, she's the true GOAT. She's supported me, through thick and thin, from dropping me off at practices here, left and right. I was trying to play all the sports, as when you're a kid growing up, all the travel teams and stuff, and she's working and arranging rides for me and, college visits and recruiting, and she's driving 3-4 hours to Penn State. So she's done so much. And I think as a parent, when you really want your child to succeed like that, you really have to invest. And, that's what she did with me. She really invested her time. And like you said, I mean, she didn't miss a high school game, home or away. I mean, she came to so many Penn State games. I don't think she missed a home game. So she's been awesome. And, she continues to follow me even on away games here in the NFL to come watch me play and stuff. So it's awesome to be able to see her in the stands, still supporting me as hard as she always has.
And I'm sure it gives her so much pride, not only how talented you are on the field, but like you said, everything that you're doing off the field, that you're such a well-rounded person. You contribute in so many ways. That must give her so much gratitude and enthusiasm.
No, it definitely does. And it always makes me feel good, knowing that I'm making her proud. And that's really all I'm trying to do, just make my people proud of me.
So in August, you do the book drive. You give out over 800 books and school supplies to students in Detroit. Where did that idea come from? What drew you to the books and the school supplies?
That was an awesome deal. This school kind of had been approached to me by Kathleen Laporte, who's a woman I work with an organization called Athletes for Charity. And, Kathleen had brought the school up to me, and I've been wanting to do stuff for the school. And there was a lack of resources and things like that. So, we came up with the book drive, which was an awesome deal, and they were all STEM books. We're pushing the STEM books and stuff like that. So we had different books, between each. I think it was K through 8, I think. Might be K through 12. But each grade had a different book, and we were there. I had some of my teammates that came and helped me out. We're handing them out. They're looking at us like, you guys are real Lions? You guys are NFL players? I mean, the kids were so geeked up. It was an awesome deal. I think the kids really enjoyed it. And, we've been pretty active with that school in general. Tuesdays on my off days, I've been doing these virtual reading sessions with the kids. So we've been reading the books actually that, we gave them, which has been awesome. And, they're learning and they're excited to learn. They get so excited when they know I'm coming in. We did a Lego building event actually the other day, maybe a couple weeks ago or so. And basically, those Lego architectural boxes, like the big ones. And we bought a bunch of them, and we brought a couple of 5th grade classes in with us. And a couple of my teammates came and helped me out. And we're sitting at these desks building these Legos. And like, Lord, I did not know Legos were like this complex nowadays. I'm thinking like, okay, these is kids, this is Legos. Like, this is going to be easy for me. And I'm opening up the manual. I'm like, okay, where's this piece? Okay, so this piece has to go on like this. Like, it was real like specific and detailed. And like, you could tell that some of the kids really love Legos. Like, they were flying through it. I'm looking at them like, geez, like maybe I need a little building refresher or something, because these kids are killing it. But it was an awesome deal. The kids loved it.
Yeah, I have 2 little kids, and they love Legos, and it's the same thing for me. You see the box, and you say, how hard could this be? And then you look at the manual. you look at the they didn't teach Legos at Penn State, so I'm not as prepared as I need to be. Jason, playing football professionally is your job. It's what you do for a living. But when these kids look at you and your teammates, they look at you as heroes. They look at you as people that they look up to. You're so early in your professional career, but have you had a chance to really process that and think about what that means?
I probably haven't, honestly. No, I had a couple of my best friends, from back home. They're always like letting me know, like, man, you need to soak it in sometimes, because like sometimes it feels like you're just to the next thing. You need to like, so I definitely think I do need to slow down in that sense, but I mean, I'm a driven person. There's a lot I want to accomplish, and, being able to do things for these kids. And I know it's just giving time. I mean, I first realized that when I was at Penn State, when we used to go to the Hershey Hospital, and just to see, like, just giving a couple hours of your time, like how it can make these kids' days like crazy, like makes their weeks, So I think it really came from that aspect, realizing the power we have, as athletes. So it's really just sharing that energy.
It's so special to me, right? When athletes recognize that platform and then use it for good. I'll never forget the times that I've been at Thon at Penn State,
Right.
and you have the athlete hour, and you just see how the building comes alive in terms of the energy when all the athletes arrive, in particular the football players. It takes it up a notch, and you see the gratitude and you see the impact that you can have, which is why I think about all the work that you're doing in the classrooms, in the community, the Jason Cabinda attendance award, right, where you're giving out awards to to kids who show up every day to school. You're setting the tone, and you're creating an opportunity for them to follow in your footsteps. It's just so unique, and something I know you're very, very proud of.
I really appreciate that, man. It means a lot. It's really just all about inspiration. I think those kids looking at us, like, it lets them know that they can be anything they want to be. And I think that's the most important thing, like, as a kid, is knowing that, like I think it would be heartbreaking to me as a kid thinking of something and being like, I could never be that, like, we want all our kids to be able to think like, I can be whatever in this world that I want to be. So that means a lot to me.
One of these things, Jason, that always frustrates me is when people say this person is an up and coming leader, this person is a future leader, because I don't think it matters, how many years of experience you have or how old you are, how young you are to be a leader. You can lead by example at any age, right? You're a relatively young guy in the league, and you're leading by example in so many ways. What do you say to people who say, I'm too young to lead, I don't have enough experience to lead, I haven't been in this job long enough to lead? What's your perspective?
That's a good question, because I do think there is a bit of merit to that argument. Like, for example, when I came to Penn State, people will say I was or better yet, at the end of my career, people will say like I was a very vocal leader, I was a captain, all that kind of stuff. But like, when I first got to Penn State as a freshman, for me, like, it's about earning my stripes, improving my worth, and outworking people. And you know what I mean? And I think there's definitely a time period. You can't put any amount of time on that, but I think a lot of it comes from acknowledgement from older people, or getting acknowledged in that way, like you said, as an up and coming leader still is something. But I agree. I mean, there is no age where it's cool to lead or not lead. Like, just go lead by example, because anyone can do that. Not everybody is vocal in that way anyways.
Jason, before I let you go, I want to get to a couple questions that came in. We got a lot of questions on Instagram over the last 24 hours from people who want to know a lot of different things about you. So first, we got a lot of questions about what was your favorite football memory at Penn State?
Favorite football memory at Penn State? Probably the Ohio State game. That was my first experience, like, as a player, where like the fans literally rushed the field, and like it was just a sea of white. I mean, it was just unreal experience.
And for you personally, you just scored your first NFL touchdown. That's probably up there. What for you is the favorite moment for you personally as in your career?
The touchdown is definitely up there. I feel like that's an obvious answer, but one that not many people may think was when I first got to Oakland, my first time in the league as a rookie. My locker was like right next to Marshawn Lynch, and that was my first like, damn, like I'm in the NFL. Like one of those feelings. So that was a pretty dope thing, and Marshawn was a dope person, and getting to know him and stuff. So that was a really cool experience too.
Jason, this has been so much fun. It's always extra fun when I get to talk to a fellow Nittany Lion. You are no question a tarp puller. As we say in the Penn State community, you're swelling thy fame of dear old state, and you're also doing so much great work in the Detroit community and nationally, using your platform for so much good and pulling the tarp, as I like to say. So, good luck the rest of the way this year. We'll be rooting for you to take home that Walter Payton Man of the Year award. But even to be nominated is such an incredible honor, and I appreciate you spending a few minutes with me this week. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you, man. Appreciate you having me on the show, brother.